Hello everyone. So today we're going to keep going over averages, but we're going to be doing something a little different. We're going to be working backwards, so averages in reverse. So what do I mean by that? The thing is, what if you are asked to find the missing data, but you are given the average? So instead of me just giving you the numbers and you add, divide, find the average, we're going to work backwards. I'm going to give you the average, but I'm going to not give you one of the data points, so you're going to be working backwards to figure out that missing piece. So there are two general methods. There's a numerical method, and then there's the algebraic method. So I'm going to go over both. So the first one being the numerical method is, so since we are working backwards, we are first going to go ahead and multiply, because that's the opposite of division. So let's fill that out. So we're going to multiply the average by the number of data points. And the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding up all the numbers that we do have, because we will have some of the numbers, just not all of them. And the last thing is we're going to be doing is subtracting to find a difference. So those are going to be the three steps we're going to do. I'm going to do examples 1 and 2 using this first method. So I'm going to go scroll down real quick, and then we'll do 1 and 2 with the first method, and then we'll talk about method number 2. All right, so for this first one, I'm going to do it a little longer just to show visually what's happening, and then we'll just write it in a shorthand for the second example. So let's look at the first one. We have on the first biology test, Bob received the following scores. So 5 tests, 5 scores. What test score must he earn on his 6th test, meaning the next test, so that his average score on the 6th test will be 80? So this right here is my average, this 80 right here. So this 80 represents my average that I want, and we're going to see how that works. So when we say we want an average of 80, that means that when we put all our scores together, they all balance out to being an 80. So I'm going to write out 80 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So having an average of an 80, it's like getting 80 on 6 tests. Although that's not what Bob gets, but that's the general idea. But what Bob actually got were 72, 86, 92, 63, 77, and we do not know his last test, so I'm just going to give it a variable. Let's just call it x. And the idea is when we add these, the answer for both of these is going to be the same. So that's what we mean by an average of 80. So the average of 80, adding a whole bunch of 80s, 6 80s, will be the same thing as adding these 5 tests plus this last test that we are trying to figure out. So that's where our directions come in. So we're going to multiply our average by how many data points? By 6. So instead of doing 80 plus 80 plus 80, the faster way will be just adding, instead of adding 6 times, we're just going to do 80 times 6. That will give me what 80 adds up to 6 times for an average of 80. So that means Bob would need to get 480 points for the 6 tests in total. Now on the right side, we have what Bob has gotten, 72 plus 86. So we're going to find that sum on the right. So his sum, I'm just going to write the word sum. I'm not going to write 72 plus 86. His sum for the test that he has taken is 390. That comes from the 72 plus 86 plus 92 plus 63 and so on. And if we want to have an average of 80, the number on the left, 480, needs to be the same as the number on the right, 390. So how much more do I need to add to this 390? So what needs to be added here in order to get 480 to make these the same? So the opposite of adding is just subtracting these two numbers. I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm just going to go subtract these two numbers. So what is 480 minus 390? And that gives me 90. So he needs to earn 90 points on test 6. So that's what Bob needs to get. So 90 points. I'll just write that out on test 6. All right, and that's pretty much it for that one. Let's go ahead and do the next one. I will not be writing this section out just because that's just to see what's going on. Why is it that we multiply and then subtract the sum? Let's look at number 2. We have students at Woodland High. Meteorology class measured the noon temperature for the week. So their readings for the first 4 days were 56, 72 for Tuesday, Wednesday 67, Thursday 61. If the mean or the average temperature for the 5 days was 63, so this is the average right here, what was the temperature on Friday, because we only have the first 4 days. So we're going to go ahead and figure that out. So first thing is we take our average, 63, and multiply it by how many data points we have. So here we're doing Monday through Friday, so we want to know for 5 days. That's as if we had 63 5 times. So what is 63 times 5? Because that's how many days we have. I'm going to write that little side note. That would be 350. Now the sum of the ones that we do have, meaning 56, 67, 72, and 61, if we add those numbers up, we get 315. But remember, we want these to be the same, and they're not the same. So how much do we need to add to this one in order so that it becomes 350? So the opposite of adding is subtracting. So we subtract 350 and 315. That gives us 35. So we need to have a temperature of 35 degrees on, and it doesn't say Celsius, 35 degrees on Friday. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Now we're going to go for the next ones. We're going to go over method number 2. Now for method number 2, this is going to be an optional method. So this is an algebraic method. So if you prefer to do all your problems using method number 1, that is perfectly fine with me. And if you want to do examples 3 and 4 here with method number 1, that's perfectly fine. But I'm going to go over how to do method number 2, meaning an algebraic method. So first step is to set up the problem as if you were determining the mean. So again, write it out, but with the letter X to represent the missing number, the one we don't know. Then we're going to add up all those numbers that we do know on the left side. Then we're going to multiply both sides by the denominator. So let's fill that word in right there. And the last thing is we're going to subtract to solve. So it's pretty much the steps we did, but in an algebraic way instead of just a basic numerical way. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go down to the last two problems. All right, so we're talking about in the first 3 years, coaching baseball. Coach Batty's team won 7 games the first year. She won 16 games the second year and 4 games on the third year. How many games does a team need to win in the 4th year? So again, we're trying to figure out the missing number, year 4, so that her average is 10. So we're given the average. So we're going to write this out as an expression. So we know our numbers. I'm going to write across, so we know that 7 plus 16 plus 4 plus the 4th year, which we don't know what it is. So we're going to put an X for that one, because we don't know what the number is to get the average we want. And I know when I divide these by 1, 2, 3, 4, because there's 4 data points, that's going to equal, so it's the sum divided by 4, and that's going to equal a total of an average of 10. So I want the answer to be 10. So what number needs to go in that spot of the X in order to get 10? So we're going to work backwards. So let's just simplify the top as much as we can. 7 plus 16 plus 4, that ends up being 27. So we're going to just simplify 27 plus X all over 4. So it's a little cleaner this way. You can probably skip that first step and go straight to this second step that I wrote. Now we're going to go ahead and solve this algebraic expression. So since we have this fraction of division by 4, the opposite comes being multiplication by 4. So that's what step number 2 above says. Multiply by the denominator. So I'm going to multiply the left side by 4, and what I do to the left, I do to the right. The 4's cancel. So I'm left with 27 plus X equals 40. That's where that multiplication comes in our previous method. And what number plus 27 equals 40? The opposite of adding is subtracting, so X is going to equal, opposite of adding and subtracting 40 and 27, we are going to get 13 as our final answer. This is the algebraic method of solving it. It's the same idea as the previous method, but here we just write it out as a formal expression. Let's go ahead and do the last one. The mean, or the average, weight of 3 dogs is 38 pounds. So this is my average right here. One of the dogs, Sparky, weighs 46 pounds. Another dog, Patches, weighs 42. Find the third dog's, Eddie's, weight. So we want Eddie's weight in order for their average to be 38 pounds for the 3 dogs. So here we have 3 dogs. So we have 48 for Sparky, 42 for Patches, plus X for Eddie, which we don't know his weight. But we know when we divide all 3 of these, we add them and divide by 3, that equals 38 pounds. So we're going to go ahead and solve this like we did the last one. We're going to go ahead and simplify. We have 88 plus X over 3. And that, now we're going to go ahead and multiply to get rid of the 3 on the denominator. Opposite of multiplication, the division is multiplication by 3, which cancels here. Now we're going to go ahead and finish it up. We have 88 plus how much equals 38 times 3 is 114. So what number plus 88 equals 114? So let's subtract 114 and 88. If you go ahead and subtract them, you get 26. So that's how we work backwards with averages, when we are given the average, but we don't know a data point. So we're going to go ahead and get started on the practice, so good luck.